And hopefully we're going to learn a whole bunch. What I like to do with the first hour is do an overview as to, what's the mission, what's the purpose, what are we hoping to achieve, and share with you some of my experiences and insights. Here at this center, we have like an ongoing Zen Wellness program. And it gives me an opportunity to just keep in the field, if you will, so you're not just reading a book and doing a lecture, you're actually in there teaching the people and dealing with the different phases that people go through in life, putting together their protocols, and then watching the results, so that it becomes a much more legitimized process, because what can happen is you can have a process, but it's really not in practice, which I see happen a lot. So I want to make sure that what we're doing is happening in the field, if you will, and we get constant and real results, which then allows me to constantly tweak and upgrade and evolve, version 1.0, 2.0, because that's what it is. It's this never-ending evolution and accumulation of a process. So it's really, really important. And that's where we do, most of this. As you probably know, you probably watched a couple of these videos and listened to the audio and all of this. And so, but give you another quick update or review. I've been doing this for, 200 or 300 years now. It feels like. I started, in the 70s with my high top Converse and bell bottoms, and didn't have a mullet. I had an afro, actually. So, but that's a whole other story. And what I noticed is a mass evolution in the whole concept, the whole paradigm, of the collective. Back then, it really, it was groovy, and there was the 70s and 60s energy, and it was like peace and love and all of that. But we were just kind of breaking into it, almost like that was the awakening of metaphysics. Yes, there was stuff in the, long before that, but with the collective as far as popularity. And I believe yoga had a lot to do with that too. Yoga really started to shine back then. And then there was the evolution, of just the definition of success and quality of life. We saw the advent of aerobics, and everybody had their spandex and leg warmers and puffy headband, right? I know I did. And, and then there was the weightlifting, and all of these different, hey man, let's establish a relationship with our body, let's start to work out. And that's good. And there's this evolution. So you see this. And fortunately, for me, when I started my training, of course I started, as we talk about the three phases, warrior, scholar, sage. So at first you start off as, especially a young boy, the warrior phase, and it's all about martial arts at that point, and just learning, punching and kicking and things like that. It was quite inspiring, but the evolution inside of that was, wow, the men and women that are really, really good at this aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest biceps and the ones that have the highest kicks. It seems to be the ones that know these secrets. And so I started stalking out the higher knowledge. And the secrets were really in the internal systems. And, and how did I learn that? Well, some of the masters would have ability that was beyond my physical ability. And they were, I would consider ancient. They were over 60. And yeah, when you're 17, 16, so, and I was never the best disciplined student, so I was cocky, actually. And so I know that's a surprise. And so what they did is introduce me to a thing called open hand palm, which is basically shaking all your internal organs and just dropping you to the ground like soup. And I was like, oh my, what is that? That was not a John Wayne punch, that was different. And that's when my definition of what is tough, what is powerful, what is strong was just destroyed. This is some old dude that knocked me across the room, like this. And so, okay, so begins the journey into the rabbit hole. And that's when I started to say, all right, so there's a warrior, and it's good to know the fighting and all that, but there's more here, there's more. And there's a concept of, back then it was Ki, ki, you know, chi, same thing. And so I was like, well, let's find out about this chi. So I kept studying, and I went to a gajillion schools, most of which were fighting, because that's just what it was back then, you know. But I was lucky enough to find a system that was teaching Bakwa and Qigong and the internal stuff. So I stuck with that. And I was introduced to a lot of the stuff you're doing, like the 8 vessels and all of the different internal systems that you've been exposed to. That I started that in like 79. And there was nothing sexy about it. You know, it was a big letdown because I wanted the super skills, and they've got me standing there and twist like a rope for 20 minutes. You know, and it's like, this is not what my mind imagined. But the process of going through it, and as my teacher would say, is earning the internal strength and the internal power, and taking a pill for a disease you don't want to get when you're 50, which made no sense when you're 16, so 17. But I went through this process, and then, you know, being introduced to concepts, you know, well, there's a thing called Qi, all right, oh, there's a thing called Yin Yang, okay, there's a thing called the 5 elements, oh, all right, oh, there's the 8 images, oh, I see. But there was no cultural support. You know, once you walk out of your little, you know, ashram environment, you're back in the world, and no one even knows what you're talking about. But if you notice, the culture started catching up. So the peace sign, and then the yin yang symbol. You started seeing yin yang, right? I had a yin yang patch on my, you know, I mean, sweatpants and stuff. I was cool. And so it was a yin yang patch. Me, no one had one of those. And so the evolution, you know, then you started seeing feng shui. You started to see the bakwa, you know. It's, oh, okay. All of the stuff that I'm being taught in like the secret teachings are becoming a little more mainstream. And then the internet, you know, and now everything was on the line, if you will. And it's like, wow, the information just exploded, you know, the availability of it. So just looking at this was a, you know, a profound experience for me personally to watch the collective evolution of our culture. And then the values starting to shift. You know, I was around, and a lot of you were around during the, you know, greedy 80s, you know, and it was all BMWs, cocaine, and disco, right? And then now it's, you know, Rogaine and, you know. So it's like, okay, that didn't work out well, by the way. Most of my peers that were not in the system and they were just partying, they're already dead, you know, because they didn't go long. And I was lucky because my teacher kind of made it so that I wasn't in that environment, because we would work, go home. I lived in an ashram and train. So, and you'd finish at 2 a.m. and then you'd start again. So I spent all the 80s and the 90s in that environment, thank God, kind of protect me from the crazy culture that we were in the middle of. But again, at the beginning, the definition of success was just cash, you know, and a good job and a really sexy car. And everybody around me was moving in that direction. And I had none of that, which was kind of confusing for a 20-year-old kid at this point. And again, the definition of success was being challenged, because the world I'm in did not support what I was being taught. The world I'm in was about the accumulation of wealth and things, and the definition of outward success was really supported by the Western culture. All my peers, you know, getting their new cars, getting all the prizes, and here I am with those silly robes, sleeping on the floor. So it was a really challenging time for me. But as I went through my life, I realized that, oh, wait a minute, the definition of success isn't really the things, it's the you. You know, can you enjoy these things? That's the real challenge. Because now I'm into my 50s, and a lot of my, you know, generation and my peers, they're not doing so well. You know, they had the things, but they kind of blew themselves out to get it. So in retrospect, I'm like, okay, I'm very grateful that I had an opportunity to kind of get plucked out of that and go through this process. And now it seems the big thing, the big push is quality of life. You know, now the culture has changed. It's not a BMW. You know, it's good to have, but useless if you're not healthy inside of it. So now there's this collective support that's a quality of life. You know, a healthy mind and a body, so you can enjoy the things that you have. And I think like that next generation, the millennials, right? We have some millennials in here. I'm sorry sorry, that's a tough generation to be in. But their priorities are different than ours. Ours was the world is your oyster. You know, it's a totally different world, you know, that they're living in. And so it's a more of a long-term view. And so I think that's excellent. And I think what I see from the beginning, from 8 to 108, is a shift. Well, we have a problem with the 8-year-olds, by the way, 8 to about 20. Most of them live a virtual life. I deal with, you know, morbid obesity already, and it's a problem, you know, and they talk about their life expectancy being no more than 58. So it's like a whole generation that we'll lose of chubby little kids in front of a computer. And so, yeah, they want to, but I got a whole theory on that, though, that I can go into one night over a drink at 3 a.m. But until then, you know, we can just stick with this. So this evolution, you know, of our culture. And then you look at the news, and it's all about extending life. Have you noticed that, how much research is going into life extension? Biological research and figuring out, you know, the hormones and figuring out the DNA and figuring out how to, you know, stay biologically 40, 45, but live 120 years. And all of this stuff is on the forefront. So the value of this healthy mind and body go into the mind. Now they're doing all kinds of research to say, you know what, a lot of cognitive diseases brought on by decades of an inflamed brain, basically. You know, and so what's going on now is you develop this plaque on the brain, and it expresses itself as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. We can go on and on and on. So they're realizing, aha, there was a big thing I read on meditation and how it's been proven to reduce the effects or protect you from the effects of this degeneration of the brain. And it's simply by, again, slowing down the brain wave, reducing the size of the brain, and so the brain itself has a chance to be washed or bathed, you know, when you sleep, which very few of us did, you know, for 20 years. So we're learning, you know, and it's really encouraging for me personally, because now finally I'm on the right side of history as opposed to being in some fringe group, you know. So now I'm like, all right, but good, because now I'm not an upstart saying, oh, I better jump on this. This is wellness is the new thing. I've been doing it forever. So that's very encouraging. So my goal is to put together a path in which individuals that want to go through this process don't have to go through the same investment of time and energy and money and suffering and blood, sweat, and tears that I did. There's really no reason for it. A lot of what I went through over the last, I don't know, 35 years has been a waste of time. I mean, I'll be really honest with you. And I think it's a crime to repeat that. So, and why do I mean a waste of time? Well, firstly, there's a cultural difference. You know, like you see your shirt, right? You have to learn all that. You have to be able to write it all. You have to be able to read it all. You have to, and back then you really had to. You had to eat the food. You had to sleep on the floor. You really submit to this culture. You know, and back then, you know, the way you would learn it isn't, you don't go to a school. It's your family line, they would call it. You're raised in it. So you're introduced to the culture as a baby. And so you don't learn the colors of the elements, you just know them. Do you see it? So we did not have the benefit of this organic. I mean, luckily for me, I was able to kind of grow up in it, you know, but how do you take this culture, and which is really, really kind of lateral, I'm talking about this Asian culture, which has this information, and then make it linear for a Western mind, and get rid of a lot of, there's some subjugation there, you know, where it's a lot of it is about, you know, you must serve the master, I'm the master. So a lot of waste of time, as far as I'm concerned. And the Western mind, we don't do the subjugation too well, right? We like to kill the royals, you know. So you got to stay away from that. You know, you'll get lynched. And so it's like, how do you do it? And that's what my conflict, if you will, was always with my teacher. It's like, listen, I'll sit here and I'll take this, but no one's going to do this. I will not get anyone to go through the insanity that you're putting me through. And he would laugh. He says, you're not supposed to. You take it, That's your job. And then you have to translate it to your culture, their way, their understanding. So you're going through for them. You're building their bridge. Okay, that makes sense. So in other words, don't do as I do, just understand what I'm saying and get it done. All right, that was cool. That was reasonable. So that's what this is about. This is what you're looking at. My best attempt at recreating that environment, which I found was priceless, what I went through, but not perfect, and making it so that a larger base, and I think there's probably 2 of you in this room that would be able to go through what I went through. Maybe, and even that I'm exaggerating. Probably nobody in this room. Yeah. And so it's like, all right, what a crime, because everybody in this room needs it. So we have to get, that qualifying process where you're a young kid that's willing to basically shave your head, sleep on the floor, get rid of your possessions, and just be that guy. It's really, really impractical. So creates this process, the Zen wellness process paradigm. And it all goes back to the 3. And this is what I see. When I have the clients come in, and you'll see this too if you have clients or if you're going through this yourself. It's a very consistent process. We go through life, we kind of lose ourselves in life often. And the first thing that we realize is our quality of life is greatly reduced by our being unstable and having limited mobility. And you can look around, which I do. It's hard to look at a person and not analyze them, because this is what I do all day. And you can see that they're almost a prisoner in a rotting body. The mind is the same, and that's the funny thing, Your brain doesn't change. It's always you. It's always now. I think I'm this sexy 20-year-old, and I'm a blown-out old dude. I look in the mirror and I'm like, oh, what happened? Because that's life. Your consciousness doesn't change. Your body just rots in front of you. I get it. And so, but if you don't participate in that, if you don't really look at that, it'll sneak up on you. And before you know it, it's really, really hard to enjoy whatever your situation is. You can be a billionaire, you can have all kinds of friends and family, you can have whatever you want, but you're basically miserable. It's hard to move. It's hard to stand. The internal systems are breaking down. So the restoration protocol is really that simple. It's about, okay, we have to get back and establish basic principle, and that is stability. And so when you go through the restoration protocol, we really emphasize this golden chi ball protocol. Has everybody done that, right? And it's real simple, and you probably understand, but I like to keep, reiterating this so that that's you. And so the goal is, the goal is to get the fire, right? We know this one. The fire here, right? And the water here. We talk about common leaf, mixing fire and water. And we also know that as, we age, have you ever seen that like a baby? I have a baby. And it's a perfect example of balance. His little hands are all pink, his little chubby foot's all pink, right? His head he's nothing but saliva. Did you ever notice how juicy babies are? And they're on you, they're drooling and stuff. I'm like, oh my God. And his little chubby belly goes up and down when he breathes, and you know what I mean? And he's pink, he's a little pink. He's the perfect expression of this, right? And he's all pliable and he tries to do headstands. It's very cute. And so, but as we age, it flips. And then the fire rises and the water falls. And that, if you wanted to try to simplify, and like if you're studying Oriental medicine, guess what? The root of 99% of your problems are going to be in people having this issue. And you can look at 10,000 points, 10,000 syndromes, and 10,000 point combinations or formulas and herbology formulas. It's all great, but they're all really designed to fix this. And that's really sometimes the simplest way to look at Oriental medicine, is take that step back and look at what's the goal. So what we are trying to do is saying, all right, what can we do to get this back? Get heat below, water above. So the whole protocol is about that. And it really begins with the feet. We lose our feet as we age. And so the feet become almost like a floppy fish foot that you're hardly even aware of. And, what is it? Pronate or supinate, you're either this or that. too much, usually it's this, everything starts to collapse and drop. Because that's what happens. As chi leaves the body, or the abundance of chi starts to wane, then what happens is the chi is responsible for one of the responsibilities of chi is holding organs up and in place. And so now things kind of start to drop. The fluid, if you will, starts to drop, and the heat starts to rise. So if you take a condition, and it's usually either one of these two. So, I have fibromyalgia. Which one is that, you think? Heat or water? Heat. You see what I'm saying? I have edema. Heat or water? Water. We can go on and on, so it's like, and I know I'm grossly simplifying it, but sometimes that's the best way to do it. So your goal, first and foremost, is to keep the heat in your feet, right? Keep the heat in the navel, the lower dantian, generate the heat. And then keep this moist, pliable, supple, the motion, right? So we do that with, the seated, the dragon swirling, and all of these different exercises that we practice to bring water up, right? So we start off with that basic thing. So when I look at a client, I got two choices, and I really struggled with this because I could say, okay, let's get you on the table. Let's do a pulse diagnosis. Let's really, really nail exactly what's going on. What is the syndrome? Differentiation of the syndrome. What is this? Okay, now here it is. And now I've got my little needling protocol or moxa protocol, whatever, and you lay there and I go ahead and do this. And now, the worst thing I found that can happen when I do that is what? Anyone? It works. Yeah, isn't that weird? Why is that the worst thing that can happen? Treating a symptom, and you're basically creating a liability. Yeah, because people say, Mike, are you a healer? I'm like, screw that, no way. You're no healer, heal yourself. What? That's not very nice. Actually, it is very nice if you go further into it, okay? So why? I can treat the condition or maybe address the whole lifestyle. So you can get the instant gratification of that treatment, relieving the pain, and sometimes it does help to build confidence in a modality. But what it tends to do is get people thinking maybe someone can fix me. And I get that a lot when I do these 5 elemental diagnoses and stuff like that. So how's Qigong going to help me? I'm like, actually, screw you. It's not going to help you. You're going to help yourself. What? Using Qigong. And that's a big difference. Just the question usually tells you why there's the disease. Just the question, the lack of ownership. I'm the victim. This is going to help me. No, it's not. You're going to help you because you're the one that destroyed you. You have to reverse this. So it takes like really crazy patience. And believe me, it took me decades to learn this. So I didn't just rush in and save the day. It's no, you're going to show up. It's going to take you 24 months of showing up, doing the silly golden chi ball, and then we'll go ahead and change it seasonally with your healing sounds and standing postures. 24 months, 8 pieces, we need some strength, 24 months. And whatever your condition is, will slowly wane. And now we went in there and took the patience to change the lifestyle, not run in and fix the detail. Does this make sense? It's totally unpopular in the West because we want to passively allow someone to practice medicine on us to make us better. Now, if you're hit by a truck, fall off of a ladder, trauma, then Western medicine I recommend highly. I'm going to chi heal that hatch in your forehead. No, I'm not. I'm going to get into the ER. So that's really, we have to be realistic here, So when it comes to trauma, there's nothing better. Also, when it comes to diagnosis, I find pulse diagnosis is great, but Western diagnosis is best. I'm just going to tell you, Oh yeah, it's just the truth. I mean, you can get some general trends, and I get it. But so we have to take advantage of that to really know where we're standing. Awesome. And then take a long-term look at recovery. And what are you doing? You're recovering a lifestyle, and all of our bodies, based on our elemental physiology, will react differently to this abusive lifestyle. So if I have a fire body, like a fire propensity, it'll probably show up in fire issues, my abuse. If I have earth, then my abuse, my off-balance living will show up in stomach, spleen, pancreas, all of these things. If I have water, so it's kind of like the same abuse, you know, but each one of us is different, so your body's going to react differently to it, and so you'll have your own unique expression of disease. Does this kind of make sense? So if we can take a step back and say, well, maybe we can upgrade the whole lifestyle, and maybe we can, and this is where we run into trouble, because it takes time. So it's the first 24 months to get the person to the point where the system is working. I mean, relatively speaking, you know. Then the next step is, all right, how do we keep it working? Now it's the longevity practices. And that's where you start going into from 200 to 500 hours of practice to acquire this information. So it's kind of like, how do I now make again, a lifestyle adjustment so that my body can maintain, you know, develop and maintain full range of motion for the duration of my life. So there's these practices that are involved there, Dao Yin, Dao Yi, all these different things that you're exposed to develop and maintain the full range and occupy the whole body. It's amazing to me how people are not in their body, and you can tell them, listen, you know, feet are parallel and shoulders are level, and they're all standing in front of you like Quasimodo, thinking they've got it. Like, this is you. Don't you even know where your feet are? And they don't. Because, what is it called? Proprioceptors, right? It's in the fascia chain, and that kind of atrophies, and they don't even know where their arm is. It's your arm. You know, it's like, no, thumb faces up. It's like they're doing it to make me annoyed. Like, really? Is that what you're going to do? That's up, huh? And so, but they don't know. And really, I learned to be very patient. You know, when it comes to teaching, I'm a very patient man. And those that know me, right? Would you say I'm patient? You've been around. And I mean, you know, when it comes to, you know, framing a building, I have no patience. You know what I mean? If I can measure it once, and if it does, I'll just throw the 2x4 across the property, yell at my brother, and chase him with a hammer. Because it's just, you know, material. I don't care. But anyways, and some of us have seen this. So you look at, you know, and my teacher taught me this earlier, because I was very hot-headed, you know, and aggressive, especially when I was young. And I would take it personally if the people didn't learn. You know, and I'd come home frustrated. And he's like, so what's going on, Marco? And he never got my name right, by the way. 20 years, never got it right. Every day he called me something different. L's in there or something, you know what I mean? Leone, Michael. So anyways, and I would say, they don't get it. They don't get it. I don't understand. They don't get it. It just isn't working. I said, and his, you know, it was a moment of truth. He said, well, listen, if they got it the first time, you wouldn't have a job. And there was truth there. And I'm like, you know what, you're right. You're right. This is job security. And so, but it just, that's how it is. And we know the equation. You'll have to show it to them 100 times, right? Then they'll have to do it at 1,000. And then after 10,000, it'll become that. That's mastery. So it's just, that's why I'm saying, this is time. Does anyone know how long it takes to go through the mastery, the self-mastery program? Anyone do the math yet? The whole thing, all 1,000 hours. How many years is that going to take? Anyone? Really?
20?
Tina? Yeah, you're right. Well, let's do the math. 2 years or 3 years and another 5. Right? Isn't that about right? It should be. So it's is it 8?
It's 8 to 10.
8 to 10 years. Yeah, that's what I said. 8 to 10 years. And that sounds like a long time, doesn't it? But if I were to tell you, listen, you have to reestablish a relationship with your body. You have to continue growing up and stop simply growing old. We all have the guarantee of growing old, but very few of us really grow up. We get the computer, but we never really install new software, and we certainly never upgrade the software we had originally. And we spend our whole life running the software we installed in the 30s. It's like, really? You have to, so you just grow old, but you never really grew up. In other words, you never really developed a full relationship with your body. The basic fundamentals, you don't even know how many ribs you have, how many vertebrae you have. Put your hand on your liver. They don't even know where their liver is. This is you. So there's, you know, growing up is a part of the constant learning, you know, and the first and the most important and awesome subject matter in the world is you. Study you, know yourself, you'll know others. So a big part of that 10 years, 8 years is continuing to grow up. And that's a big piece, you know? So, and again, think about this. You're gonna have to, and is it, how many hours is it, 1,000 hours? No, it's not. How many hours is it?
10,000.
Thank you. It's 10,000 hours. My job is to discourage you. You're like, really, 10,000? Yeah. Yeah, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Right? Watch TV, eat a pizza. It's gonna go by anyways, right? You know, so the idea is, why? Because it's 1,000 hours of instruction. But every 1 hour of instruction needs 9 hours of contemplation. You know, so if I say, look, this is this, you know, and I go, okay, well, if you don't practice that for 9 hours, it's not gonna show up. It's just not gonna be you. So that's where the modality here runs into a little trouble. It's not a pill. It's not passive. It's not free. It's hard. So you wind up with, as opposed to having a room of 20,000 people, you have a room of 20, 30, because you are dealing with a different mindset. People that are going to start to break the entitlement. There's an entitlement mentality when it comes to our health, which is really weird to me. And you know, when I first started teaching, you know, senior citizens, I would hear them saying really, you know, mind-boggling things. And that would be, well, my doctor's a quack, my blood pressure still isn't under control. Oh, my doctor's an idiot, my cholesterol's all over. Well, put the donut down and start walking. You know what I mean? We're really gonna yell at the doctor? And it's like, somehow, it's his fault. So that's a big piece that you have to kind of flip and change. So in the first part, we're just trying to get you basically, you know, activating the kidney one, getting the energy to move and flow, getting the body to stand, become stable, become solid. That's your first goal. And it's expressed in your hands and feet. Every single day, your feet are warm, right? Ideally, moist, groin moist, armpits moist, hands pink, every day, so that we know we turn the old pump on. Out here, everyone's got a pool. And if you don't, right, filter that pool, it rots immediately. You know, so that's especially if you have a dust storm. And so it's the same thing with you, but we don't filter. We don't move nearly enough. And guess what? The older you get, the more you got to move. You get to quit your work job and start a new job, which happens to be you. Very unpopular subject. I remember telling my brother that. He got mad at me. Well, damn it, I worked my whole life, I'm retired. I know, but you're rotting in your chair, bro. You know, it's like you have to train 3 hours a day. 3 hours? That's out of line. Okay, or suffer. Either way, you know. So, and does it mean, you know, do you need to run straight for 3 hours? No. There's many ways. We know this. Low grade, middle grade, you know, aerobic, and then anaerobic. And your whole training protocol is designed to provide you ultimately with a way to easily train 3 hours a day and not even know it. And how is that? Well, you get up, you loosen up, you do your Qigong. Okay, you do some later in the afternoon, you do some Tai Chi. Oh, you pound the ground for 10 minutes that time. And now you're standing, oh, this is beautiful in this canyon. Well, let's just stand here and wait for the sun to drop behind the ridge. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to watch that sun and I'm going to chill. And it just doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Just like, has anybody ever here learned how to play like the guitar? Anyone? Okay. What's the best way to learn how to play your guitar? Leave it on your kitchen chair. Right? Don't put it on the guitar stand in the music room, but no, have it right there. So when you're waiting for the water to boil, you're running a minor scale. You know what I mean? Now you're over here, what was that chord in that song? You know, just a little chord combination. You know, or you're sitting there talking to your mom. So it's got to be impromptu, constant. Not, I'm time blocking this. We're human beings. It's like trying to time block fun. I'm going to laugh and be joyous from 2:30 to 6. It just doesn't work. We're not like that. We're living creatures. So the goal here is to totally change your relationship with your body, you know, and your relationship with your mind to be in a constant state of exploration. You know, so I just got done. I had everybody remembers Master Rath, right? Tim Rath. And so now he's back in Chicago, I think. He's everywhere he wants to be. But anyways, we spent this time that he was out here just exchanging. Because he spent a whole bunch of time on the East Coast with all those masters. I spent a whole bunch of time on the West Coast, and so what we did was download tons and tons of forms. Forms and forms. I learned more forms this last year than some people learned in their lifetime. Just forms and forms. All right, how about this palm change? All right, what about this adjustment? What about, I've done this long enough. No, I haven't. I haven't done it long enough. I don't know it. So, you know, and then you're always thinking, well, if this is swallow skims, well, this is snake creeps, and this is, your brain is always, you know, moving, but it's positive. It's going to move anyways. This is why I learned this real early. It's going to either be worrying or planning how to take over the world, or, you know what I mean? There's like something, let's build a bomb. It's just doing this. So it's like, all right, I'm not stopping the brain, am I? No, probably not, unless you really get down and drop into some serious meditation. But generally, it's going to move. Okay, how about this? Give it something to do then. If it's going to keep spinning, I'd rather have it rolling, a mantra, rolling, a yang form in my head. So my internal thought or internal picture is something beautiful and something positive. Because you're not going to stop the picture. So, you know, these are tricks that I've learned, because people say, how the hell do you do this for 30-something years? Well, rule number one is you never stop learning. And no matter who you are inside of this. So as we go through this first phase of the restoration, we say, okay, we go ahead and try to get that balance. We reestablish a relationship. That's what the whole thing is about. The golden sheep ball at this point is the base. The healing sounds are how you augment it seasonally. Does this make any sense? Because I think I've seen too many people make the mistake of saying, I'm doing the healing sounds, here I go. And that's okay, that's gonna work. It's a great way to learn it. Now I'm gonna do all 5 postures. And that'll work too, but you're better off saying, you know what? Here comes the spring. It's all wood, and it's going to be, I'm going to even add the 5 animal frolics, deer extending, great, and I'm going to stand like a tree in between or during or before my golden sheep ball. So you change it seasonally. Does this make sense? It makes a lot more dynamic. Let's go back to, most of us don't live in nature. We live in human settlement zones where you're compressed and managed, controlled and taxed and determined whether or not you have electric or water, and you're basically slaves. That's my view, but whatever. And in doing that, your life is primarily concrete, glass, you know, and steel. And so you're cut off, I think for deliberate reasons, but again, 3 in the morning, we'll talk about conspiracy theories. You know, but, and what happens is you lose your relationship with nature. And when you lose your relationship with nature, yin yang, the 5 elements, all that stuff is almost foreign. There's no context for the content. But when you're in nature, you can clearly see, guess what? It's springtime. And if you look at that I Ching wheel, the first day it hit fire, you hear birds. Songbirds are out. And you start to see the sprouting of the grass. It's like, oh, interesting. Immediately. It's first day it hit thunder, you can see the earth starting. You can feel it, the movement. And if you're sitting there checking it out and you're in the middle of it, it's really apparent. So it's spring. So what do I need to do? I cut. I move. Now it starts to move. I sat a lot in the winter. I do my meditation, my standing process. It's appropriate. It gets dark quick. You know what I mean? It's damp. It's good. There's cold. You know, you don't want to be out there feverishly doing long fists, sweating like an animal, opening up your whole system, and it's damp and cold. You're going to have pathogenic cold wind, you know, into the body. So no, this is time. So it's all green. It's moving. You're moving. You're totally involved with nature. And you're also bringing in, guess what? Every year you're up to here and all the pollen out there. Good. Because after a while, then you won't have allergies. You start to become it. If you're always in your little world and you're bombarded by it once in a while, you never really figure out how to coexist with the environment around you. Does this make any sense? But we're cut off, almost like we're in a big spaceship and we don't really live here. So what we try to do here is to, guess what, people, we need to reestablish the first relationship, and that is with, you know, how we coexist on Earth. And how we could, you know, have our activities and behaviors fit with the seasons. And what you'll find is your body will create a much more natural rhythm to it. And it's easier to pick up momentum and stay in momentum. And very key piece. So that's why we say, all right, here's a protocol. This is what I'd like you to do throughout the season. Change this, change this, change this, so that your body could more readily coexist with your environment. Very simple. That's the first step. Then we say, all right, now we'll start some 8 pieces, and the real emphasis is to get this posture. This posture. As soon as you see someone stand in that posture, you know what they've done. And in my world, there's 2 camps. There's the people that know a lot about Oriental medicine. The doctors and acupuncturists, and they're Reiki healers and Qi emitters, but they know nothing about themselves. Well, I know everything. I know what this meridian, this kidney meridian, I know. But why don't you give me your lecture in horse stance? I'll listen to you like this, for as long as you're like that. And as soon as you're done, which is going to be about 30 seconds, we'll go have coffee. Because you're just bullshit. Because you're not it. You might know it, didn't benefit from it. It's like taking financial advice from a broke person. I'm your broker. No, you're broke. And so it's the same. So rule number 1, be it. Really, really important piece, so that you realize it and then people can see it, that it can be done. And the easiest way is the horse riding stance. So that's why we use 8 pieces to introduce you to first step, which is horse riding stance. And it's usually toilet stance like this. And it's really uncomfortable. It's a good look. And if you poke them, they'll fall right over. All right? So we want to be able to stand like a mountain. And so a lot of work goes into horse riding stance, and a lot of work goes into making it believe that you're not reasonably comfortable. Okay? And so best thing to do if you're running into trouble with that, get rid of your chairs and only eat in horse stance at your table. Then you'll get good, or you'll get real thin. Either way, it's a great way to lose weight, or it's a great way to become really good in horse stance. So that's a big piece, though. So we need this stability inside of the horse stance. And then I know what that's going to do. Why is it going to work so well for you? Is because if we look at it real simple, right, when Master Venable gets here, you'll get much better graphics. Until then, you're stuck with me. So this is all compressing. Compressing. Vascular compression, right? And then this starts to flow. So as opposed to everything just kind of dropping like a water balloon down here and rotting, by standing this way, and the longer I stand in it, the body actually starts to feel better, as you're in it. This is, my toes are pulling up, groin's pulling up, knees are stabilizing, Hoyin's pulling up, dropping into the heels, and then heat. But this is all chilled. That's going to stay relaxed. So I'm literally squeezing up the energy. Does that make any sense? It's actually pretty simple. Now we have this thing called the lymphatic system as well that we got to deal with. So when we talk about body fluid, right, there's 2 major body fluids. Do you know what they are?
Blood and blood.
Well, you should know what your little brown suit is. Are you a nurse?
Physical therapist.
Okay, so blood and lymph, right? So mostly lymph. And I think the lymph system and the fascia chain are the least understood in Western medicine. And they'll tell you that, So the lymph system and the circulation of blood is greatly affected by just standing in this silly horse position. So then we're basically moving up. We're starting to get the blood, and you've heard all of these lectures. So by having you stand in this horse riding stance, I can kind of tell what's going on, with the body real quick. That's the first step. If I can get that, great. Call it restoration. Call it getting you back to 0. Now we're like, yeah, but now we need to create mobility. So that's the next step. After a couple hundred hours of training, it's time for mobility. So we introduce you. We start with 8 vessels. Who here has done 8 vessels? Anybody? It's a party, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you haven't done it with somebody that has a spear in their hand. So So as you hold it, so the idea is now I'm going to start working on opening and closing the quad, all this lymph here, twisting, reaching, and extending, basically taking all the lymph system itself, more like this, squeezing it like sponge. Great idea, by the way. And so concurrently, I'm working on this fascia chain, expanding and contracting, so therefore it can hydrate. Big piece, making the body much more conductive to qi. Or, you know what? I think the word qi is too mystical. It's really the nervous system, too. You know what I mean? How quickly the brain can communicate with the body. So we start Dao Yin, Dao Yi. All that kind of training, and the 8 vessels prepares you for the root idea. Now, the third phase is motion. And this is the piece, people miss. So I'm stable, right? And now I've got, a more dynamic range. So I'm taking that stability idea and I'm bringing it all over. Okay, great. Everything's horse stance. Beautiful. Yoga, we do our Zen yoga. It's really, really important stuff. Good. Here's the piece though. The universal circle principle has to show up. As we age, we lose grace. And so they've done studies. So if you take somebody over the age of 58 and they track their eyes and how long it takes them to look and see the guy. Hey, Bill. I know that's extreme, but it may as well be, you know what I mean? So they measure the speed in which the eyes could locate, focus. They measure the speed in which you can change direction. They measure how gracefully you can move. How about this? How quickly you can get off the ground. That's a big one. I've fallen and I can't get up. That's a crime. So, how quickly can you get off the ground? And so, most people, it's a little bit of work, right? Could you get off the ground not using your arms? That's the first step. You have to be able to get off the ground, because a lot of us are like, all right, I got this. This is me. Oh yeah, there you go, Joey. Oh yeah, you got something. Oh no, this is, okay. Oh. And that's, right? And that's anybody over 50. And so that's bad news. And usually it's body mass, it's just so heavy. And the joints are blown out. You got sciatica and all kinds of wonderful stuff. So by doing the longevity practice, you have to be able to go from high up, right? High, and then you drop low, you can go back up high. Oh, I can sit, I can stand, I can do all my stuff, and I work. Well, congratulations, first step. Now you have a restoration and longevity is in place, okay? And you really benefit from that when you have 14-month-year-old baby, because you spend a tremendous amount chasing around and stuff, and you must be on the floor. Okay, next step. And this is the one that most of us miss. And that is, this is going to be a great depiction, but we get the idea. Universal circle principle. So now we go from, all right, I fixed the thing, pretty stable. We have to stop relying. We got to grow up more. Because once we stop toddling, we learn to walk, maybe some of, basic stuff, dancing, gymnastics, but we're limited. And we move the body based on the musculoskeletal structure, and we're flexing to move. Very limited, especially as you age. So now we have to learn how to move the body based on the universal circle principle. Does that make any sense? So, I know, isn't that great? So here's a perfect example. You're at Safeway, right? Picking through the avocados, and somebody taps you on your shoulder, and the first thing people do is, what? They turn their head and they fall over. At a 180-degree turn, I like to just do it to people on a Safeway here at Sun City and go away. I don't, but I should. Give them a business card when they're laying on the floor. How'd that work out? So, I just came up with an idea. So, yeah, no, that's wrong, isn't it? So I know that I don't go like this and then turn. My feet, waist, and then my head. You don't turn your head. We don't know that. We all live in we're head and arms. So how do you turn 180? Foot, waist, head. If you like, you can lead with your elbow if you really want to hit the guy, you know? Hey, what do you want? So basic retraining. Hey guys, this is how movement begins in the foot. Okay? It's directed by the waist. It's expressed in the arm. Rule 1. Interesting. I never thought about it that way. So now I'm in horse, I'm stable, but now how do I create motion? So I know that if I'm going to move this way, I push off the right. I want to generate power towards a yellow wall, a blue wall. I push this, I turn that. That's where the power is coming from. From opposite, opposite, opposite. Does that make any sense? So I'm not moving by flexing at all. I flex to stop moving. I use that's the brakes. That's not the gas. So if I want to generate motion, I do that. I don't do this. Does this make any sense? No one has that software. So we have to download that application. So you've got, here's the universal circle application, and then here's all the little app upgrades, constant upgrades. Very key piece. So we started off with even just Tai Chi turning 180 degrees. So we said, guess what? We'll show you Tai Chi 13. We'll show you how to move the arms 8 different ways and direct the body 5. So I turn that way. Forward, back, forward, back, forward. This is my 180 degrees and step. So I'm not, am I moving my arms? No, my arms are being moved. Does that make any sense? Big difference. And that doesn't go away. That's not doing push-ups. That goes away. If you understand how to use power from the feet, directed from the waist, and express it in the arms, now we have the big piece. That's like the crowning achievement of your longevity practice. But this is what they have found. By doing that, it's almost like the whole system lights up. Now the cultivation piece. Because now the movement, okay, motion and emotion are the same. Does that make any sense? So that's locking. Now you're starting to open up this, leading with the heart chakra. Because you have an intellectual understanding, right? If you mix the 4th and the 5th, I understand and I move, you illuminate the 6th. So your perspective, your perception, and your level of awareness is altered. You alter what they call your assemblage point. In other words, how you assemble reality does change. How do we know this? Music affects your assembly. I can affect your state with music. And I can play music you really like, right? And it can remind you of people you love and times and places, right? Or I can play music you really hate, like rave music. Some of you probably like it, you live close together, but everyone's different. And now you're all, my eyes killing. I gotta get out of here, right? So the music could make you irritable, right? Or can fill your heart with love and joy. What is that? What is music? It's math. What is it math? It's about timing, measures, or measuring for timing, right? So, so the timing thing has an effect on our emotional state. What happens if you're not playing an instrument, you're playing you? Even more profound effect on your emotional state. So when your emotions change, so does your chemistry. When your chemistry changes, so does your perspective. Right? We know we have different chemistry. When you're really upset, you dump stress hormones. And when you're experiencing joy, you dump like dopamine and all of the wonderful positive remodeling chemicals. So you have an equation, stabilize, move, okay, get it stable, work on the range of motion, and then start moving it, and I can change my emotion. Now you have this combination to a safe. Does this make any sense? That's why dance really works. It kind of gets you right to the, I feel great, man, I'm just, feeling great. I got my glow sticks, took 5 ecstasies, it's 4 a.m. the 3rd day, and this is amazing. Good, and it is. But I feel like shit for a week when you're done. I know that. So, because you kind of missed a few things.
happens. But you can't run right into it, right? And so we know. So here's like, well, we're going to work our way into it so it's just not randomly dancing with big shoes on. We're deliberately position, good, breath, fine, visualization, and motion. That's a big piece here for our longevity. Because, you know, you want to be able to, if you will, dance until you die. And that's a big piece. Not shuffle through life miserably with a floppy fish foot. You know, and that's, so we go. Restoration is, again, stabilizing the body. Longevity, it's range of motion. And a big part of your cultivation is understanding the timing of it all and the universal principle. Because you can tell just how somebody sets their body up, whether or not they, you know, they do it. You can't fake that. It is it or it's not. And so our goal is to help you install the software so you can master the body. You know, and everybody's going to be physically different. I get that. But at least to your capacity, and then establish a better relationship with the body, and then start to realize the long-term quality of life. To become an immortal. What's an immortal? Someone who lives every day until they die. That's what an immortal is. The average American spends 20 years dying and $270,000 in copay. So we want, if it's possible, to kind of, you know, go around that. That would be nice. Does that make any sense? So that's kind of my overview of what am I trying to do here with this, with the system, with these people coming through the door. Do I rush right in and start to needle spleen, you know, meridian, so he doesn't have to take a blue pill and finally get an erection? I can do it, but I didn't fix anything. Or I can say, that's great. This is called horse stance, you know. And then, but I need to, yeah, I know, but here, go ahead, stand on a boat. And if you're not willing to, well, then how about this? Screw you. Go ahead, go walk away with your little anemic feet. And so, or you're willing to earn it. Because the true long-term quality of life is earned and not given to you by some physician or a pill. So we're not here to be healers in that sense. You know, we're kind of, but not. We're not here to go ahead and fix the immediate expression. Do you know how? Yeah. And by the way, like auricular therapy, especially the battlefield combination, you can be a hero and fix anything. How you doing? Oh, I got that hatch in my head. Great. I got a needle here, 0.0. You don't feel a thing. But did I do anything? I didn't do anything. You see, if anything, I created a dependent that's got to come to me now when they're in pain. Or I can say, I'm going to teach you how. I'm not going to make you a sandwich. Oh, really? You're going to teach me how to make a sandwich? No, I'm going to teach you how to plant wheat. I'm going to teach you how to grow grapes. Then I'm going to smash these grapes and make some bread. And then I'm going to a little bit of hardball. Here's a peanut field, and there we go. It's peanut butter and jelly. We'll have it in 10 years. So, but you'll have it forever. And so that's why it's a little different. So there's a fine line. You don't want them to starve to death. So we try to show you some basic stuff so that you can at least remove some pain and be inspired to know it works. Okay, questions? Yes.
Have you found a way to talk to people to get them motivated to treat themselves? Because I think that's the hardest thing.
Yeah, I don't. What I found is that I can't care for you more than you do. So what I do is three things. Number one, I'm me. That's called the law of resonance. Okay, so it's like, hi, I'm me. I work, you don't. I don't say that, but I am that. That goes a long way. Number two, I'm surrounded by a community that's getting a result. Big one, okay? So I don't have to spend any time saying it works. There's a lot of this, well, does it work and what's it gonna do? No, it works, you don't. That's not what you say, that's what you are. And then, of course, you provide an environment conducive to learning. There's support, but you can never convince someone, ever. I spend no time convincing. I really don't. As a matter of fact, I won't even teach you unless you ask me 3 times. I spend time in my personal life deterring you because 90% of the time I know it's a waste. So there almost becomes this, I do not run at anybody that knows me. I don't spend a lot of time chasing you down. Hey man, you want to learn this? I don't care. So, but that also, I've been doing it for a long time. I have thousands of, clients. So it's a difference. In the beginning though, you'll do anything it takes. No, make yourself better. Realize the benefits yourself. Therefore, the law of resonance. You are the teaching and you are the results. The next step, the best way to prove that to anyone is through your clients. So you take and you water, this my teacher used to tell me all the time, you know, Marco, only water the trees that are growing. What? Because I would try to fix everyone and try to convince everyone. And so we were at the ranch, and he takes seeds, you know, and we're doing the apple trees and all that. He takes a handful of seeds, he throws them on the driveway. So that's you. I'm like, seeds on the driveway? I didn't get it, but that was the teaching. No, the point is you're throwing seeds on concrete. Why not go here? Look, oh, moist, fertile soil. It's been amended. It's fertilized. Oh, go ahead. Now you'll get something. So don't spend any time convincing anyone. Spend all your time teaching those that want to learn. Because you're like, but I know, but there's so many, and there's so, get it. But those 2 or 3 will then attract 1,000.
Is there a way to do it, like I work in a rehab setting,
Mhm.
where other patients don't see the people that have just left?
Right?
It's like they're isolated from.
That's
seeing
correct, yeah, I
themselves.
know. Well, the only thing you can do then is testimonials of the people that have gone through your process, videos. I really do find that one thing though, you know, is you need 3. You need information, you need a teacher, and you do need a community. Because it's what keeps us all on the wagon. When you see, oh, that person can do it, I can do it. So then you have to find a way, by kind of leveraging your results and your credibility, to let other people see it is being done. For me, it's easy. I got people walk in the door, and I got, you know, how old are you now, Tina?
73.
Yeah, and there she is, you know, in a low post dance with a fan, you know, doing straight sword. And, you know, it's like, what the hell are these people doing? No, that's how we do it here. So I don't have to say, guess what? You can be over 60 and do cool stuff. I got a building full of people over 60 doing cool stuff. It's really amazes me. So you're at that earning, building foundation, and that's okay. You keep building yourself. But I find a big piece of it, though, is you are the teaching. Once they see it in you, then it's like, oh, I see. So but that's the right question. But don't convince anyone. I hope that helps. It's hard at the beginning, I know.
Yeah.
Especially when you have no clients. You know how many centers I've opened? Over 30. And you know what I would do? I open my little center and start the class all by myself. Having a great time. Even commenting, hey, Joe. No, that's creepy. But you just go. You just go. And before you know it, they're like, what are you doing over there? And it just happens. Now, I know it does too. It's a law of resonance. Again, they show. Now, you might not be in an environment where you can leverage your social evidence. So that might be something you need to, leverage the existing research that's out there. You know, provide them with all of the facts. Western medicine is become our biggest ally right now. You know, all the Harvard and Mayo research is done in Tai Chi and Qigong. So sometimes you just give them the information, and that might do it. You know? Good question. Anything else? All right. Yes.
I remember you saying that you want, like, the feet should be puffy and pink,
Mm-hmm.
but then there's also edema. So
How do you tell the difference between an edemic foot and a well-cheat puffed foot?
Yeah.
Really? You stick your finger on it.
Oh,
If I got edema and I go like this, right? You're going to see my finger while I'm talking, and it's still there.
Mhm.
It's also, there's a difference. I mean, you can see, you know, you can look at it. So, yeah.
Put people's feet.
Yeah, how you doing?
Right.
No, you can
Yeah.
tell edemic foot, you know. Puffy meaning red and moist.
Mhm.
Not puffy meaning I can touch it. There's like a hint of either gray or yellow.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
Sort of
That's,
pale.
yeah.
Okay.
There's a big difference
Okay.
between an unhealthy puff, if you will, and a healthy one, yeah.
Mhm.
Good. I know, you're waiting. We're going to do something? We're going to take a break?
We're gonna take, kind of a break, so those that have black, bronze, silver will be in there for the next half, and everybody else will stay here, but we'll do a cycle break for everybody.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll keep the chairs.
All right, good job. Take a couple minutes and we'll be back. I have no idea who.